Evening, Cherries fans, and welcome to this latest opposition preview show. There's nothing really writing on this anymore, is there? We've done it. So you probably saw the celebrations, absolute scenes at the end of the game on the pitch. We can't ever forget that. And against a very, very good Forest side, who we beat 1-0. Of course, we do have one more game left. It is an important game for our opposition. But before I welcome on my special guest, here's a little bit about our sponsors, Dental on the Banks. To find out what they can do for you, visit dentalonthebanks.co.uk. Now, our visitors tomorrow are Millwall, who can get in the playoffs themselves. They're in the 8th spot, and only a win against the Cherries will do. To actually preview this game, we've got a special guest. It is a pleasure to welcome on to the show from That Millwall Podcast, Chris Chapman. Welcome to the show, Chris. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good, mate. Thank you very much for having me. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Absolutely elated after Tuesday night. It was very, very nervy. I don't think many Cherries fans got a lot of sleep that night, me included. But it's great to be back in the Premier League. And you never know, Millwall might join us as well. But we'll come to that in a minute. But let's discuss the season so far. So at the moment, you're sitting just outside the playoff places. You're in 8th. There's a couple of things that need to happen to actually get yourself in that top 6.
Yep.
Give us a bit of a story of the season so far.
Yeah, and it's a weird one, because I think that actually, from someone looking outside, would be like, you're 8th. Surely your fan base is really happy with the performance, and I think a lot of us are. But at the same time, I guess there is a sense of what if, because there's definitely been games where we could have picked up more points. I know every team can say this, absolutely. I'm not denying that, but there's definitely been games where we could have picked up more points. And our home form is excellent. And if I believe I'm right in thinking, if you fail to beat us, we will be second in the home form for the season, which will be great, just behind Fulham. It's just our away form that's let us down. But for me personally, I'm really happy with wherever we finish now. I think it's a tremendous success. I think, unfortunately, the Championship is not an even playing field when it comes to finances. We're definitely in the bottom quartile when it comes to budget. So any finish above that is successful. I think Rowett's done a great job. Not every fan likes him. We'll get into that, I'm sure. But for me, I think he's done a great job. And whatever happens tomorrow, we should celebrate the season.
And Rowett has managed to drag you up to 8th in the league. You're currently 7 points better than where you finished last season as well. You did mention there, though, that not every Millwall fan's behind him. Do tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, and there is definitely his football is incredibly boring. Like I think I think if you watch any championship review show, just the general one, or you speak to any fans of Stoke or some of his previous clubs, they will tell you that his football is not particularly attractive on the eye. He's very pragmatic. He's definitely sort of defence first, and that shows in our goal record. And I think that plays into possibly some of the negativity towards him because honestly, it's really boring to watch at times. It's got better as the season's gone on. So that's one element. I think the second element as well is he's not how can I put it? He's not a particularly charismatic man, shall we say. So, even yesterday I attended the end of season awards and he went up, did a 2-minute speech, didn't really say anything to anyone and then went home. And that's fine, right? But we're used to club legend Neil Harris being our manager, who would have literally gone around the room, shook everyone's hand, thanked them for being there, thank you for the support. So it's a very different style of management. So I think that also plays into it too. And I don't know where he'll be next year. I really don't. I personally would love to keep him. You alluded to the fact we've made progress season on season, which is absolutely right. We're 3 years into his reign, and he said by that time we would be challenging for the playoffs, and we are. So I think he's done a good job based on results. I just think there is an air of a bit of negativity towards him amongst some of the fan base.
You've got former Cherries striker Benik Afobe on loan from Stoke. He's had a good season. He's scored 12. He did score against us as well at the Den earlier on in the season after Solanke opened the scoring. What sort of breath of fresh air has he been?
He's great, but again, he's another one that divides opinion. If I'm being really honest, and any Millwall fan listening to this will know exactly what I'm talking about. So he. We're sort of having a bit of a debate on our show earlier on in the week in terms of would you keep him, would you not? Which I don't know if it would be in our control financially if we keep him. But he's contributed goals, so 12 goals. I think it's the first time we've had double figures for a good couple of seasons. He's not played. I think he's got an average of 1 in 3, so he's not played the whole season. He has had patches of injuries. He speaks incredibly well. I'm sure Cherries fans will probably remember, you can just tell he's a good bloke, and he's been through a lot in his professional football career and also in his personal life. And I don't know, he just comes across like a really nice, humble guy. So I think he brings more than just his footballing ability to the club. And I really like him and got a lot of time for him. And I think we should definitely try to sign him. The kind of divide comes from the fact that at times he can look lazy on the pitch. And that might just be his style, but there's been times where he might have bottled challenges or he doesn't seem to be doing running the channels, the grunt work, which at some clubs I think you can get away with. I think Millwall is unique in the fact that you can't get away with that. Bare minimum, whether you're very good at football or not, 110% effort every game. So that's the bit that some fans don't quite like. At the end of the day, he's doing the business. 12 league goals. I think he's got 13 in all competitions, 3 assists. You can't argue with the facts. So I think he's been a brilliant signing, and I don't think we could attract a much better striker than Benik Afobe.
And to be honest, I can completely understand. He did sometimes come across as lazy when he was here. But he always has his eye for goal. He always seems to be in the right place at the right time. But he doesn't do the grunt work sometimes. And that's how, a lot of our fan base would completely understand with that. Also, you've got Conor Mahoney at Millwall. What's his time with the club been like? Because I don't believe he's had much game time at all, if any.
No, and he's been told by the club he can go. He's not been involved in any squad for the last 6 or 7 games. He wasn't at the award ceremony last night So he was the only player that wasn't there. So, he's definitely been told he's no longer part of the plans and his contract runs out in the summer. He's a real odd one because there is no doubt he has tremendous quality. He can play with both feet. He's very technically good from what I saw. And he also was quite good from dead ball situations as well. He scored a few decent goals, and he showed glimmers of not just being a good player at this level, but a very, very good player at this level. But something's just not right, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's something going on in his personal life. I honestly don't know. I've got no idea. But the fact that Harris signed him, I think paid £500,000 for him. Played him for a little bit, then he just dropped off the face of the earth with Harris. Rowett comes in, and similar thing happened. He was part of the plans originally, and then he just kind of dropped off. So it's not the point I'm making. It's not just one manager. There seems to be something underlying that's not quite right. But again, it might just be that we're not the right club fit for him because he again lazy's not the right word. I would say he was a bit lethargic sometimes. So he wasn't the strongest on the ball. His off the ball work rate wasn't necessarily where it needed to be. So I think there was that element too. But it's a shame because he's definitely got quality. And I think if he went to someone like Luton or something, I don't know. I just think more of a free flowing attacking team. He might actually do well. But we'll see where he ends up next season.
To be honest, we didn't see much of him, but we could see that there was a quality player in there. But it just didn't seem like he was favoured by Eddie at all in the end. And it's a real shame.
Why, right? You ask yourself, why were you prepared to let him go? A player that clearly has got potential. I think when you sold him to us, he was still early 20s for like £500,000. Why? Begs the question. So, yeah.
It looked, by all means, he looked good on the training field. He looked good in the reserve games, but I just didn't get his opportunities. And I think that I think maybe he lacks a little bit at, definitely the Premier League level that he was at the time, but also the Championship level. It's a shame, really, but hopefully, fingers crossed, he will come good. Let's talk about the stipulations then tomorrow, Chris. So, of course, you've got to beat us. That is, one thing that has to happen. Of course, we're over the moon because we've just been promoted. You're hoping that we're on the beach?
Oh, we were equally delighted when you got promoted. Maybe not as happy, but we were pretty close. And we really hope that you celebrated really, really hard and that you're continuing to do so all week so that you turn up looking a bit worse for wear tomorrow. It's interesting because I saw an interview with Lloyd Kelly and he looked a bit hungover, shall we say, the day after. But yeah, let me take this opportunity to congratulate you guys as well on the promotion. I'm sure you're all absolutely over the moon, and obviously we'll see what happens for you next season. But we'd love to follow you up there. But we have to win. We can technically catch Sheffield United and Luton, but we have a better goal difference than Luton, thanks to Fulham for the other night. We don't have a better goal difference than Sheffield United, so that would require not only us winning and them losing, but there'd be a 6-goal swing. So that one feels a little bit out of reach unless Fulham turn it on again, which we know they can. And then you've got the small problem of Middlesbrough as well, who go to Preston, nothing to play for. They got thumped the other week by Blackburn. So I think even the most optimistic Millwall fan knows it's probably not going to happen. But all we can do is take care of our business and obviously hopefully we can pick up a result against you tomorrow. And just the fact that we're even talking about the playoffs in the last game of the season as any chance of possibility, I think is any Millwall fan would have taken that at the start of the season for sure. So you can't not be happy with that.
Do you believe even if it doesn't happen tomorrow, that Rowett can improve on what he's done this season? And if he improves by another 7 points, say for example, you're well within the playoffs. If not, pushing towards those automatic spots.
I think that's a brilliant question. And the honest answer is I don't know, because there's a couple of reasons. We're going to lose a few of our better players in the summer. So Jed Wallace, who is our talisman, he's the best player we've got by a mile. Wouldn't surprise me actually if you have a look at him on a free. Why wouldn't you? There's no risk, you haven't got to pay a big fee for him. But we're going to lose him. We're going to lose, I would imagine, our club captain Alex Pearce. He doesn't play at all, but you can tell the leadership he brings to the club. So, and sort of Jed was kind of his sort of right-hand man. So we're kind of losing 2 leaders. The likes of Benik, Afobe, we talked about. Whether we can financially afford it, I'm not sure. Danny Ballard has come in from Arsenal on loan. We'll try and get him back, but again, don't know. And then on top of that, we also had Ollie Burke, who should play some part tomorrow. But again, he's on loan and under contract with Sheffield United next year. So there's a lot of players that could be moving on. So there's a massive rebuilding. And we're not the only ones. I know QPR, for example, have got a big job in their hands. But I think Rowett has done a very good job in terms of inheriting a squad from Harris, keeping that core nucleus of players together. But then the players that he's brought in have been players he's all worked with before. So he brought in Mason Bennett, Scott Malone, who he's worked with before. He brought in Benik Afobe, who he worked with before. He brought Ryan Woods in, who he's worked with before. He brought Kiftenveld in, who he's worked before. So he's not really gone out and recruited that many players. And so it's going to be a massive overhaul in the summer. I think we'll need to take a step back before we take a step forwards. And we'll need to recruit incredibly well and probably go for a slightly different type of player. Not such a, dare I say it, not such a Millwall type player like a blood, sweat and tears 110%er, but someone who has got like a little bit of a spark, someone who's got a bit more quality that might have off days, but can unlock defences. Someone like a Callum O'Hare at Coventry. We're never going to afford him, but that type of player. So we'll see. I would like Rowett to oversee those changes and see what he does. But we all know that when he had a bit of money at Stoke, he didn't exactly spend it wisely. He spent 10 million on Benik, for example. So, we shall see.
I think if Millwall did get into the Premier League as well, one thing that we found, which was a massive advantage when we was in there, was our home ground, Dean Court. Nobody really liked coming to Dean Court. It's not the glamour of, say, for example, the Emirates, Anfield, Old Trafford. Let's be honest, not many teams would like coming to the Den, would they?
No. There was an interview with Darren Bent the other day, and he was asked what ground he hated most, and he talked about the Den. No, and I think the Den. Every club says it, but I think that the Den and the fans, we really can be a 12th man if we get a good crowd in, But unfortunately, that's not been the case all season. When we played Peterborough and beat them 3-0 the other week. I think it was just over 16,000 fans there. It was close to being a full house, and it makes a massive difference. Problem is, Tuesday night games, people can't get there from work. It's on the telly anyway. You're averaging sort of 9,000-10,000. It's not quite the same, but you'd hope in the Premier League that would be different. So we shall see. And I'm coming tomorrow. I've never been to Dean Court Vitality or whatever it's called now.
Yeah.
I've never been, so I'm looking forward to coming tomorrow and sort of seeing what the atmosphere is like.
It's an interesting small ground. We had a lot of Nottingham Forest fans telling us the other day that it's a ground that doesn't belong in the Premier League. If the league table was decided by size of the grounds, maybe they might be in there, but it's not. Luckily, it's all dealt on points. Let's have a look at these fixtures tomorrow, because let's start off with Sheffield United against Fulham. And personally, I think Fulham will be aiming, because I believe the record is 108, isn't it? Goals scored.
Yeah.
Set by Man City. I think they want to blow that out the water, won't they?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I think, let's be honest. I think Fulham can blow anyone in the Championship out of the water. I remember when we played them at home this season and we lost 2-1, but I kid you not, it could have been 10-1. We were very, very fortunate to get away with only conceding 2 goals. They've got some real quality and they play quite an intense game. I guess it just depends if they want to turn that on tomorrow. I'm hoping that Mitro, although he's beaten Whittingham's record, I'm sure he'll want to make sure that no one ever gets near him ever again, and maybe go for another hat-trick and get 46 or whatever it is. I think he's on 43 now, isn't he? I think.
Yeah, it'd be a crazy achievement, wouldn't it?
So, but then Sheffield United are very good at home. So, I think Billy Sharp might be back for them as well. So, who knows on that one? But yeah, hoping for a Fulham win, obviously.
And then you've got Luton, who face Reading. Reading, not particularly the best of sides, as we found out. Went to their place, we beat them quite comfortably. They come down here. Really, we should have been 5-0 up at half time and decided to somehow let them in with some silly, let's say, substitutions. How do you reckon that will go? Because Luton's got a lot of injuries as well.
Yeah, so I think they're really short bodies in the centre of midfield. I think Fred Onyedinma, who used to play for us, went off against Fulham, and I'm pretty sure Adebayo and Cornick either didn't start or didn't play against Fulham. So hopefully those injuries remain. But I guess it's a difficult one, because was Nathan Jones so confident that he could beat Reading? Because it almost looked that the scoreline just didn't make any sense. Like, as that completely, it go one of two ways. It's either completely knock their confidence, or it's going to give them the kick up the backside that they'll need to comfortably beat Reading. The only thing I would say is that Reading, no, they're not very good, but they've got 2 or 3 individual players that I think could easily make a top 4 Championship side in Swift, Lucas Yao. So they've got the ability to score goals. So we shall see. I know Ince obviously contract runs out at the end of the season. He'll probably want that job, so he'll want to finish strong. So hopefully they can do us a favour. But who knows? Again, hoping for a Reading win. I'm just frustrated because Luton equalised with like 2 minutes to go against us at their place not so long ago. And if we'd held on to that, whilst we probably didn't deserve to win the game, if I'm being really honest, if we'd have held on to that, we'd be in the playoffs now and they wouldn't be. So, yeah.
And then we got Middlesbrough, Preston. Preston, I don't understand it, Chris. They always seem to beat us, but...
Are they one of your bogey teams, are they, Preston?
Yeah, I can't remember the last time we beat them, to be perfectly honest. Even in our last promotion season, I can't remember. I don't think we actually beat them. This season, we've got beat twice against them. They were the first team to beat us after getting 40 points in 17 games. So it's a weird one. It's a very, very weird one, but we just can't seem to play against them. But Middlesbrough, you would think, would go and win that game. But Preston are physical.
They are, and they're a bit erratic, aren't they? And I think the inconsistency is why they're not challenging for the top 6, because Ryan Lowe's done a fairly good job since he's come in, and they got some good players again. I think, is it Emil Rees up front? Got quite a strong defensive unit. I think Ben Whiteman's quite a good player in their middle as well. So they got some good players, but I think they're really inconsistent. They can beat you, but then they get thumped 4-1 at home to Blackburn, who's a big rival, and they should be up for that game regardless of whether they've got anything to play for. So I don't know. That's probably the one that, although Middlesbrough away, I kind of see it as a little bit more. I think Middlesbrough are going to win that game, unfortunately for us. But who knows? This is the Championship. Anything can happen. There's always that debate of, is it better to play a team on the beach because they don't care necessarily, or does that make them not care and therefore relax, and then there's no pressure, and who knows? So it's going to be a fun afternoon, that's for sure.
I think we are going to rest some players. There was a lot of players out there that were looking leggy towards the end of that game, but were giving 110%. And I think we will probably play our second string. I think the likes of Gavin Kilkenny will come in, McCondes will come in. Still really good players. Jamal Lowe has been quite ill, so I doubt he'll play. But we might start with Kiefer Moore up front. It's one of those that I haven't a clue what he's going to do. But do you think that you could beat our second string?
I think the challenge is your second string has still got the likes of the names you mentioned, but to throw a few more in there, I think Ben Pearson spent most of the time on the bench, if I'm correct. You've got Dembele, who he comes on a lot, but he doesn't start many games from what I've seen. So you've got players that would walk into our team, if I'm being really honest, that are not getting a game for you. I'm a massive Kiefer Moore fan. A lot of my friends actually take the mickey out of me because I actually think he's outside of maybe Mitrovic and Solanke. I think he's the best striker in the league, if I'm honest. I think he's so well-rounded. So a second string team of yours that was going full pelt trying to win the league, no. A second string team that maybe don't care as much and we're the ones going all out to try and win the game, maybe.
I'm just pleased that it didn't come down to this game, because for 82 minutes of that game against Forest, we were heading for a final day shootout, where you'd expect Forest to beat Hull. You'd expect them to thrash Hull, but there was always the questions in my mind. Mill, always a tough team to play against. Do you think that you'll be very physical, or do you think you'll try it? Because how we found it throughout the season is, you look at the record with our teams at the top, we've done very, very well against teams at the top. So we've drawn twice against Fulham. We beat Forest twice. Luton, we've won one and lost one. Sheffield United, we've won one, drawn one. And then you go down to Middlesbrough. Yes, we got beat there, but we also drew. But if you look at the teams down the bottom, we haven't beaten Peterborough. We haven't beaten Preston. We had that terrible result against Reading. We got beat by Derby. So it shows that we perform better against teams that do like to come out, play football. Huddersfield's another one. I nearly forgot them. We beat them twice. With that in mind, do you think Gary Rowett will think of that and think, right, okay, we might need to be physical against this lot to get the 3 points?
I think we'll be physical anyway. I think it's our style. I think what we've done, and I can't quite put my finger on why, but the last sort of 5 or 6 games, we've been awful in the first half. Gone in level, but been awful in the first half. Created nothing. The whole game's in the middle of the park. No chances at either end. Just boring. It was the same against Peterborough. You couldn't have split anything in the first half. And then the second half, we literally come out so intense, all guns blazing, really physical, in your face. And then we scored 3 goals in quick succession against Peterborough. Obviously, it's a completely different proposition. But what I think will be slightly different tomorrow is because we must win, right? It's now or never. I would imagine we'll start quite intense with you. and I think that will be the only way we can beat you is by getting in front nice and early, and then Rowett will just try and defend the lead. That's just a Rowett thing to do. He's very defensive. So, and it's just whether or not your second string or whoever you put out can break down a low block and that sort of way. I won't go into my match predictions just yet. I'm sure we'll do that later on. But that's the way I see it going. I think we'll come out very, very intense because we've got no choice but to be.
How do you expect Millwall to start yourself?
The 11, the team, or so I think it will be Bartosz Białkowski in goal, back three of Jake Cooper, Sean Hutchinson, and Ryan Leonard. Then fullbacks or wingbacks, Danny McNamara and Murray Wallace. And the centre midfield, I reckon, Billy Mitchell and George Saville. And then the front three is the interesting one for me. I think it will probably be, if Jed Wallace is fit, he's our best player, but he's not been fit. So if he's fit, he will start alongside, I would imagine, Benik, Afobe and Tom Bradshaw. If he's not fit, then it could be either Mason Bennett or Ollie Burke. So quite our forward line on paper should cause most teams problems. But that's the 11 I think that will start the game.
Like I say, I'm not sure what sort of defence that we're going to put out. I think Gary Cahill might get a final game because I can only imagine that he might be off at the end of the season. I believe that Jack Stacey might get a run out as well. Even Laird will probably play if he's fit. The midfield is where it could all be mixed up. And I think that's where we won the game against Forest. And that's where we've been really, really strong.
I thought it really was superb for you as well, by the way, the other night.
Yeah, I think, he's excellent. Come on, leaps and bounds this season. And Nat Phillips as well. A lot of us wanted to keep Cookie because Steve Cook is a legend at this football club. And I was gutted when he went. Absolutely gutted when he went. But to be fair, Nat Phillips didn't put a foot wrong on Tuesday night. He didn't put a foot wrong against Blackburn as well. So the defence is definitely there. And is it stronger? I still, Cookie would have been a great addition to keep in the squad, but I guess that he wanted the game time. But for me, I'm not sure what side we're going to put out at all. And if it's the same again as it was against Forest, would you be worried?
I don't know if I'd be any more worried than your second string, to be honest, because you've got such strength in depth in that league. In January, you went out and basically signed Championship All-Stars. And it'd be interesting to see how many of them actually stay with you or ones that actually get loaned back to the Championship because they're not quite ready to make that jump. So that'd be interesting to see. Jamal Lowe always scores against us, always. We've tried to sign him twice and he's rejected us twice. So it's always like a big middle finger to us because he always scores against us. Kiefer Moore's got a good record. So if either of them play, I think you're going to score for sure. But there's no point, for me, there's no point even worrying the team that you're going to put out because ultimately, no matter what's put in front of us, we have to beat it. That's it's not, we can't play for a draw. We can't, we've got to beat you and we've got to beat you quite convincingly, really. And yeah, can I see it happening? Probably not, but we can all dare to dream. And I think there's probably a lot of fans that, whilst we all like to think that no one likes us and we don't care, I think there's a lot of fans that would secretly like Millwall to sneak into the playoffs tomorrow.
Yeah, me included. To be honest, it would be great to see Millwall in the Premier League. I'm sure the game against West Ham would be quite interesting, wouldn't it?
I don't know what the police would say about that, mate. But
But yeah, it'd be absolutely amazing to see you in there, and it would probably, if you did get in there, it probably would be Forest that you would be playing. Would you be worried about that?
I think they're by far the best team in the playoffs. They're the team I think you'd want to avoid. But let's face it, I think whoever, you're going to play Forest to go up, because I think they'll win. Whoever they'll be in the final, I think. Unless obviously Tuesday night sort of took a real confidence battering for them, I don't know. So again, I would just love to have the opportunity to be worried about playing Forest. I almost don't want to think about that. We'll get who we can. I think we could. Huddersfield would be the one I'd want if we got in there, because we played them over playoffs before and we beat them quite comfortably. They couldn't hack the full Den crowd, so I wouldn't be scared about Huddersfield, and we beat them quite convincingly recently. Luton, I think Nathan Jones has done a great job, and I think he deserves his Manager of the Year award. I think on a shoestring budget, he's bought a real good mixture of the likes of Adebayo from Walsall, really, good sort of cheap buy that's taken to the Championship so easily. I think he's a brilliant player. But then he's also brought in the experienced heads, the likes of Snodgrass, etc. So I think he's recruited really, really well. So I think we could probably beat Luton. Sheffield United on paper, very good side. And as you say, Forest. So who knows? We'll by this time tomorrow, mate, we'll know what the score is.
Well, you never know, and fingers crossed for you, mate. Of course, you'll have to beat us to get into the playoffs. How do you reckon it will go?
I think it's going to be. I think the game's going to finish 2-1. But I can't necessarily say who to. Let me explain my thinking behind that. So I think we'll go a goal up. I think we'll come out quite intense. We don't normally, as I said, we're normally dross for the first half, but I think we'll come out really intense. We'll take the lead. We might even go into half-time leading. We'll probably all be on our phones checking what other scores, and we might be in the playoffs at one point or not. But I think you'll have too much quality to stop you scoring. I think you'll equalise, and then we'll have no choice but to go for it, which will either lead to us scoring the goal we need, or us being completely exposed, and you maybe getting a second or a third, and winning the game comfortably. That's how I think it will go. So it just depends whether or not we can get that vital 2-1, or whether you go on and beat us. So I'm gonna sit on the fence, I suppose. But that's kind of the way I see it, the sort of scenario playing out. What do you think, mate? Out of interest, what's your view?
Do you know what? I would agree with that. I think Millwall are going to come straight at us. We have already done our job. We can't win the league, of course. We can't drop out a second. So I think you'll come at us. I think our intensity will be quite low ourselves. But I think there will be quite a few players in there trying to play the Scott Parker way, where he's passing, being patient and waiting for that opportunity. And I think there will be players trying to prove a point that they want to be here next season for that Premier League season. I think Ben Pearson, one who come to Bournemouth to get into the Premier League.
Yeah.
And I think he's done that. He's got us into the Premier League. He's been a bit part player, but he's still part of that squad. Personally, I don't think we would retain him. I don't think we would keep him. And I think we might let go out on loan, but at the same time, I think that he'll want to be part of that and want to show Parker what he can do. Same for Malcondes. Malcondes scored the goal against us for Brentford, which consigned us to another season in the Championship. He's come here after being cast out in the cold by Brentford, and he probably want his crack at the Premier League as well. They probably think, okay, I might not play every week, but I want to be in there. I think he'll also probably be offloaded should he not put in a good performance. And I think there's a lot of opportunities tomorrow for our fringe players to put themselves out on that. In Scott Parker's mind, Kilkenny's another one. Kilkenny's a quality player. But again, I think our midfield is so strong with Lerma, Billing and Lewis Cook that it's going to be very, very difficult for him, unless there's injuries, to actually break into that at all. So there will be those players, I think, trying to prove a point. I think it probably will get to 1-1. But like you say, I think you will know you have to go for it. And it may leave you a little bit exposed at the back. But personally, I think you might sneak it, because there's no need for us to win this game anymore. It's a game where we can experiment ourselves in. I know that some teams might turn around and say, well, that's unfair. Bournemouth experimented. They've played a weaker side, but it's not really that much weaker. It's still a good quality side at this level. But I think because you need to win it and the intensity will be there, I think from minute one, I think you'll probably do it. I think you'll probably beat us. Whether or not it's going to be enough, I could see Fulham thumping Sheffield United. I could see, and it's a good point with Paul Ince and wanting that job at Reading. I think he'll probably want to do a job against Luton. Luton have got quite a few injuries. Middlesbrough's the one that I'm thinking that you should be most worried about, because Preston recently beaten by Blackburn and haven't really shown us much, have they?
No, I agree with everything you said. I agree with absolutely everything you said, and I think it would really hurt if we beat you and then everyone else wins, so we still finish outside the playoffs. That would really hurt. But what would hurt more is if we lose to you and then everyone else loses. So it was like a missed opportunity where if we had won the game, we could have got into the playoffs. So we shall see. I don't know. I'm going to sleep tonight. I'm heading down early on the train. Try and find a friendly pub to have a few beers before the game and see what happens. So really, really looking forward to it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Chris. It's been really insightful, and all the very, very best to Millwall. Like I say, it's a bit of a nothing game for us now. I'd love to see Millwall in the Premier League at some point, and I wouldn't be surprised. It is a bit of a dead rubber from our front, but you're going to be going for it.
Yeah, no, we'll thank you. Obviously, good luck to you guys next season in the Premier League. If you fancy lending us a Ben Pearson or a Marcondes or a Kiefer Moore, you know where we are. We'll gladly take them. And let's see what happens tomorrow. And thank you for having me on the show.
Not a problem at all. My pleasure, Chris.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining me on this opposition preview show. Thank God that's the last one of the season and we haven't got 3 more to do. Please do check out all of our previous shows. We've had some great guests throughout the season, and thank you so much to every one of them. Please also do check out our interviews. We did have Steve Cook, we had Steve Fletcher, Harry Redknapp, and lots more. So please check out those. And again, thank you to everybody who's contributed. Also, we've got our Raw reaction videos as well. There was no special guest, so to speak, for the Raw reaction against Forest, but you did see me and Chris going a little bit mental on the pitch. So, hopefully that makes up for it. But again, thank you so much to all our guests. And thank you to all of you for watching as well. During the off season, we will be doing some special shows. Hopefully, we'll be interviewing some more players. We'll hopefully be interviewing people of interest. So please do remember to hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell button below. It does mean the world to us, and we're up to 335 subscribers. So that is really, really good, considering we do put out mainly opposition preview shows. Until the next video, whenever that will be, it will be in the Premier League. Up the Cherries, and I'll see you then.